Hey Doki, it is a wonderful day. It is the best day because today is Friday, and that means we get to make more hit idol. Huzzah! Let's close out of here. So, what have we achieved last week? A lot of stuff. I have off stream. I have drawn the icons for the link buttons, which appear to have a mind of their own as to where they go. That's fine. We can fix those offsets in just a sec. We have... Honestly, I don't... Right. Yes, we have yesterday, not yesterday, last week, we implemented this. We implemented the ambient track. That's what we did. So, that was the large steps forward, as I recall it. Now, what do we want to do further? We've also managed to give a basic sketch of Dr. Eisen Conroe, but we'll let him be good as he is for now. So, stepping forward, what shall we do in this future that we have now? What I want to do is, for this I'll have to hop to a different save. You'll do. So, that is the early game pretty well filled, but I would like to add a few more things. For instance, here we have the stack of exam papers, which is of course filling in space until the targets list can be shown, until that story development happens. Right here we have nothing. That's a bit suboptimal. Further, on this screen currently we have the starting letter, and if, let's see, which week would we hop to? I think this. Is there an issue of Idle Monthly? No. So, on the starting screen, you would often have a dialogue of Butterfly beginning here. Additionally, here is where the issues of Idle Monthly gets dropped, clickbait as they are. But that is of course a monthly magazine. There are only 10 issues of it, and right now there's nothing much there. Outside of those single weeks every month, ain't nothing. And I don't love that. So, what we should do instead is, well, very simply, put something here to fill the space. Additionally, at this point you do have the concerts view, but this also takes a month to show up. What I would like to have happen is move the exam papers down one screen to here, move them down, so that, I mean, yes, there is wonderful lore about which idols are doing how well in music. That's cool and all, but it's not terribly interesting. Instead, sorry, I just need to think real fast. Oh, I've made a mental mistake. So, what I'm thinking is we move this down here, yeah. But To replace it, we can use a wonderful little system which just gives you a cutesy little facts to cheer you up. The problem with that is, of course, that... Oh, sorry. No. I'm thinking everything wrong. Right, those cutesy little facts will go here. Yep. Right there. In order to fill out this screen, and every time that you start the week, you get something cute and heartwarming. So, that's something that we need to make. I have already written like 27 of those scraps, so it's in the translated data. We just need to pick it up and put it in the game with a matching sprite, of course. I'm thinking a little scrap of paper, like ripped out. Maybe we make it draggable too. Or maybe we make it look like the post-its from the minigames. Either one would work. But, well, that I suppose depends on the size. I'm feeling more stick it to the table, but hey, try one thing, see if it works. If it doesn't work, do the other thing. Further, for this screen, which currently does not have, is not going to have something to fill it when we move the exam papers down, I want to make a list of goals to initially motivate you, because I feel, well, at the start of the game, maybe this is a hollow fear, but at the start of the game I feel you're kind of just doing whatever, right? You're just doing whatever, and sure, it works. By my experience, the game does intrigue people long enough until the big plot hook is revealed. The full meaning of the word hit in Hit Idol. But I would still like to give them something to work on, which is going to be a simple list of 4 goals that will totally get you to be able to play at the big idol concerts that everyone dreams of going to, which at the end of the game you do play there. This isn't K-On! Where we set a goal and literally nothing happens to move towards it. Full disclaimer, I do get why they don't play at whatever that concert is called in K-On! It's an anime where nothing much happens, and that's okay. It's an anime about spending time with your friends, and that being worthwhile in itself. Also some weird stuff that was thankfully cut in the anime and only appears in the manga, but well, personally I haven't read the manga, and listen, yeah, there's a bunch of weird stuff in the manga. Guess which work I'm describing. That's just par for the course, isn't it? Water. Delicious. So with that, let's get started on that. I think I'm going to start on the goals list, because that is going to be immediately relevant. I have also already gone ahead and I need to very quickly actually update the texts, because yes. That's going to be a mess. No, actually that'll be fine. One moment, I am writing in my beautiful spreadsheet where I have stored all of the texts for hit idle. And I have forgotten that strings need quotation marks in order to delimit them, otherwise things aren't going to work out. And because I had forgotten that, hopefully the export is failing. Here we go. Now the script should run successfully, and I would be able to move the texts from the spreadsheet into the notepad file. Listen, it's simple, but I've already greatly optimized how this works, since I just need to copy and paste this. Okay, invisible work done. So what I've done is I have already adjusted the dialogue that plays relatively early on, in which teacher expresses just that doubt as to, are they working towards a goal? What are they really doing in the club? Aren't they just playing around? But of course, for that we are going to need to re-script it such that dialogue and scripts match. And that is here. Consequently, we go to the story tab. This spreadsheet has literally 15 tabs at this point. Hope there's not a limit, because I feel that might not even be the end of it. Then this is you. Copy and a pasta. Okay, now then, let's compare and see what we have changed. Do you think I'm doing most of that? Yep. This line has changed. Basically, we're taking a detour. Instead of going right to the idle decks, what we are doing is we are going to go left and show off the target list. Or, well, at that point it's the goals list. Ha! Synonyms. These are identical. And what we are going to do in that regard is we are going to hold off on transitioning the screen until this line here and as I said, instead of going right, we are going to go left, so we need to go a negative screen width. There we go. So this line is, that's why we need to try our best. Right, at this point, all of this is meaningless. Okay, we want to create a dark highlighter which is going to show off the goals list. Currently, of course, the goals list does not exist. That's a moderate issue, but we can just, create a dark highlighter at all. And then once we've made the goals list, that'll be fine. So it's going to be, as she begins talking, we want to create a dark highlighter and with the coordinates of the coordinates that I should define before we start, because it would be simply too much code to execute inside the array, and I like to have variables that I can re-reference. Consequently, goals list starting x is going to be, well, I don't know, it's going to be on the no, it's going to be on the targets screen, plus it's going to be in the middle of that screen, and then it's going to be some offset, we'll call it 30 pixels. This is realistically going to be replaced by the width of the sprite, but for now, just make a thing. And do the same thing for the y coordinates. Better use the screen height. And then the others can be for the end. We could redefine this, but practically we know where it starts. So if we'll know how wide the entire thing is, which we will know, then we can just add that width to the start, and that's good. The ending y equals starting y plus 60 times 6. Just put in a highlighted square for now until we have more exact measurements. So, starting x and y, ending x and y. There we go. Remembering now, we need to I don't believe we'll need this variable anymore. Nope. So since we are not going to the recruitment screen, because that would be a bit of a journey, we don't need this, we don't need to find it, we don't need to do anything of that sort. What we do need to do is, since we are going to the targets screen, which does not normally have a photo of butterfly on it, we need to set it up. Conveniently, we can just give it greens.moida. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that will plonk us down a photo of butterfly. It will also give us an attachment point for teachers' dialogue lines to be shown off of to show the speech bubbles. And we do need to, so set up dialogue elements is going to properly place butterfly. It's going to put her on the dialogue layer. We need to make sure that once we are done with her, we tell her to fade out and eventually destroy, so that she doesn't just stick around there. So, down some of the biggest things to work on first. Yes. Then there's some additional lines here, during which we don't really want to do anything. Yeah, I mean, we could, more than easily, we could make a transition where we zoom across 2 screens. I just feel that might be a bit jarring if we go too fast. And besides, I think check the idle decks is going to be quite well enough. Now, one more line in the middle here. It is a little inconvenient. I mean, no, like, here's the thing. If you arrange a number of screens, 6 of them in this case, in any arrangement, there's going to be some that you can't reach from others. Right now, I would love to be able to go from the top left corner to the bottom right, but, well, that's over 2 and down 1. That's just way too fast. I would kinda like to show off the stats raised by the training, but I think, hey, I think it's okay. Show it to some people, see if it works. So then, at this point, we go back into the dialogue as it was. Group effort, experience and learning members. I've changed the line here. It doesn't matter, of course. But just to somewhat unsubtly point out that hop, step, smile, the exclamation point is part of the name, that this raises image and persona in order for the player to link, oh yeah, those stats that I've been seeing at the end of the minigame, that's what gets raised. Yeah? Now, I am remembering that thing that I have to remember, which is we need to do a script call to targets butterfly photo I'd then destroy, so that she will leave as the dialogue is completed. The one on the start screen is already well and done. So let's give that a whirl. No. I'm sorry, before we do that, I just really hate how these buttons look. I have changed them because, I mean, there's always only been 2 link buttons. There has never been a link button that leads back to HIO, even though I am probably going to make separate versions such that the demo that is distributed on itch is links to itch, and the one that's distributed on Steam links to Steam, because it would be rather impolite, don't you think? It would be rather impolite to put a game on Steam that links to a different store than Steam. That would be so impolite that Steam might even make a point to very explicitly tell you not to do that. Like in a contract or something. No reason, that's just how I feel. And we do, of course, want to be polite around here. Very, truly. Okay. So, now then, having fixed that, the link buttons are properly displaying. That is wonderful. Now, this is the hop, step, smile dialogue, which means it's going to play on day 15. Do I have a save for that? I certainly do. Let's see if this plays properly, if it displays what it should. If it's, well, if it doesn't break, largely. The dialogue has been updated. It's very good. No, it hasn't. What the? What the heck? I'm sorry. Is in the translated data? Did I forget to press save on Notepad? I think I did. Let's try that one again. But with the correct dialogue. Yes, we'll reach our dreams in no time. There it is. I do prefer this dialogue. It also reinforces that, well, Starfield Sky Festival exists, it is a thing, and that is where they want to go. Because if you don't keep talking about it, people aren't going to pick up on it. That sounds super dismissive, but that is just how it is. Like, if you drop something once, was it in a dialogue that the player might not even see, then obviously people aren't going to notice. You do need to keep talking about it in order for it to get picked up. Okay, look here, give a highlight, and I forgot that the photo is going to be hidden by default. That's okay. We can, I think, just show it. But see, does this match up properly? Yes, wonderful. Okay. So then, yeah, I'm just gonna set the target's photo to visible. There we go. I could also have her fade in as the screen pans over to her, but I think this is fine, showing her already present at that screen. Now then, with that done, we need to adjust how that screen looks. So we are going to stay in the table room handler, which is as the room starts, as you enter. Here we go. If we should display the target list, then do it, otherwise hide it and create the essay stack in its place. But instead of that, we don't want to do this on the target list, we want to do it on the concert list. We can literally just fit it in here, change the screen that we are displaying this on, which is concerts. And that should be everything. Super easy, just like that. Just like that, it should have moved the essay stack over, and it should create that exactly and only if we are not at the point in the story where the concerts are displayed yet. Yada yada yada. Thank you. Here we go. There we go. Yeah. I do want there to be stuff everywhere on the table. Largely to show off, I admit. It is largely to show off. This might want to go down a little to be underneath the arrow. Let's do that. But what I want to show off is that this is, technically speaking, one large room. We're not transitioning between different parts, we are just moving the camera around. So if you move across the screen like so, then you see the other stuff that's also on the table, because of course it's there. It is physically there. And you can catch glimpses of it. And certainly there are ways to fake that, even if you completely unload and reload what's on screen as you transition, but well, it is much easier to just have all that stuff right there. So yeah. Instead of going up 10 pixels, you should go down 10 pixels to display beautifully. Yeah. That is going to be that. One moment. I'm just going to turn on display skip dialogue. Not because I think the dialogues are excessive, but if you are going to run through them dozens of times, then of course you would appreciate it going a little faster. There we go. The arrows are not like physically in the world, of course. Teacher does reference them once, but that's a, you know, talking to the player kind of moment. And despite that, I do prefer to not have overlap between the navigation elements and what is physically on the table. Except for here, this is fine, I think. I don't really have any other options, because I can't exactly make this letter any smaller or it's going to mess up all the spacing. Although I could actually squeeze it together a little bit. I mean, this is already being cut here, and we can like move these two words down. That would be fine. And that would actually be okay. But that's for later. So what needs to happen now is we want to create a goal list, which is going to be a relatively simple post-it where Butterfly has noted down what you need to do to definitely for sure get a spot at Starfield Sky Festival. Which, to be fair, it's not just for celebrity idols, there's also a young talent section, which is where you actually go. You don't get quite that famous that you would be playing on the main stage. But that aside, so what we need is we need to make this object, which is going to manage its own drawing get its own texts, because this is a fixed text, and whether or not you achieve your goals, it's going to go away before too long. But this is create goals list. This is just what takes the space of the target display if the target display isn't showing up yet. Now, one more thing before we get started on that, really quickly, just expand this else so that we properly track is the SA stack present or not. Likewise, if we are not showing the concert list yet, then it should exist, otherwise just make it a null value. Okay, so this is, I suppose strictly speaking, it is an object in the targets area. Object goals list. This is going to have a list of 4 builders, well 5. It's going to have a header, and it's going to have 4 different goals that can be achieved or not. In that regard, we do need to keep track of whether those goals are achieved or not. I mean, sure, I would definitely get away with not doing so. That is just making it static. But I like to do entirely more work than anyone expects or anyone would notice. So we're going to do this the entire way. Consequently, oh, Let me really quickly read up on what the goals are. I do believe, yes, they are: raise a band to this much popularity, raise an idol to have this much voice and image, or this much heart, and recruit 6 idols, which is very convenient because none of these goals can change. Asterisk. None of these goals are going to change during a week. They're only going to change their status as you train. As you end the week and you go into your training, your idol stats are going to increase, and thus are your goals going to be updated, which means we don't need to dynamically check and update these as you stay on the table. We only need to do that as we create this instance. So in that way, let's see. So what are our goals? Idol with 200 voice achieved is false. Yes. Yes. Our goals further are that, here it is. We want to get an idol with 210 image. With 6 idols achieved, and we want to, one moment. Yes, no, sneeze. Are you going to? I suppose not. And with 100 butterflies. Now, for these three, of course, we need to check whether the player has actually done so. For this last one, we don't. And there's a very simple reason for this, because it's impossible without save editing to have 6 idols while this element is being created. Because before you can recruit your 6th idol, you are going to get the story hook that creates a target list, so from that point on, this will no longer be shown. But for the moment, we'll leave this as booleans, though we will replace this with function calls. There's going to be a builders array, which in the draw event, we want to draw the thing itself. Then, as we've done a million times before, for each builder, make it output its thing to draw the text on top of the target list. So, from here, we are going to want the following. We are going to want a label builder at the top, which I'll just start with. It's called a text builder, whether or not GameMaker recognizes that that is a thing. With a text which that was out. Let's say we use handwriting font 20. This is probably too large. The handwriting font is real big, but we'll use it for now. We need to grab the translation keys from the room handler. The tables room handler's translation keys are just the global object, so from here we need to navigate to .table.goals. That's the space where we want to operate, so just move into it at the start so that we don't need to continuously say .table.goals. We also want to, so configuring this text builder. This is, I think, fine. The alignment is good. We want to move the text builder up. Well, we want to move it to the... Try something. I want to try moving this to the left border so that it's like left aligned. Can also try, of course, going center aligned, but I think left aligned is good. So sprite width by 2, deduct that, plus 4 times 6. This is a super easy way to move anything to the left border and then a certain distance away from that left border. And conveniently, whenever the sprite changes, so does this calculation. And we're going to do the exact same thing up here to move it up and a little bit away from the top. From there, we still need to set the text. We're going to need to set the scale. And I think black text is going to work perfectly well so that we don't need to set the color anymore. Drinking break. Set text to gets translated string. of the label. There we go. And scale up to 2 to achieve that beautiful, slightly grainy pixel arty look. And add it to the builders array. Then we are going to have to I mean, really, we can start with this. Don't make the entire thing. Don't sell the cow before it's laid eggs. That's probably an idiom somewhere. Just start with the smallest thing that you can test and see how that works. Now, I have, of course, no real frame of reference for how big I want this to be. I think I want it relatively large. So, what we are going to do... let me think. It's gonna be this big, it's gonna be with the handwriting font. So, yeah, let's a bit smaller than this. A bit smaller. So, right, goals list. This is the small version. And I can't be bothered. Why do much work when little work do trick? Just copy the target viewer sprite if we're going to copy it anyway. Yeah. So, this is now the goals list. You can tell because I named it that. For this, in order to shrink the sprite, we first need to, well, make space. Okay, how big is this? This is 24 pixels smaller on a side. Yeah. Use the grid, it is very helpful. Right here I've got a grid that is 8 pixels large, so I can just count 3 squares, gives me 24 pixels. Wait, what is? Oh! Huh. That's right. Oh, for this I initially had intended to put sticky tape, which... well, we might do that later. That's going to be a little more complicated than it seems at first, but for now, that's not important. We can look at that later. So, having shrunk it accordingly, quick math. 192 minus 24 is 168. And this is 112. And the image is supposed to go to the top left corner so that it's not cut off. There we go. You know what? I'm gonna do a cute thing, which is I am going to grab the blend color for butterfly, because as you play a minigame, the post-it that shows your requirements is colored with the color of a random band member, and since this goals list was made by Butterfly, it would seem to only make sense to make it pink like she uses. Now, where is that defined? Here. I believe it is... no. No? I believe this. No. Where does that come from? It's in object par requirements. Not quite. It's an object par mini game room handler where the requirements are instantiated. Except not, of course, because these are different ones. Okay, final answer. Object room handler hop step smile. You, yes? Yes. You instantiate this and with the text box color, which becomes the blend color. Now, that isn't going to be a massive issue. GameMaker has a funny way of blending colors, but it's not so bad. It's really not. Just need to grab real quick 247 175 189. Okay. So 247 175 189. Thought I'd forget, huh? We are going to have to store this color for later, I think, because you can't just blend color into something that exists. That would be way too simple. What we're gonna have to do is we're going to have to cut it and then draw it with that blend color. And maybe draw it in the correct space. There we go. There we go. Isn't this beautiful? Yeah, I don't hate that. Though I might go back to the base paper color for the simple reason that, well, every other piece of paper in this game is white. And most of it is implied to be written by Butterfly. So it's a bit weird for this to be pink, but I'll see how that works, really. So, as per the usual, take this. You are now larg. And you are scaled to 672. Here we go. And then give it to the goals list. And then we can see it in action. See how it works. Smart goals list. For all its many flaws, GameMaker does at least have pretty decent searching for assets. I can't believe I'm taking has a search function as something actually positive. Right now that's not going to work because of course the goals list isn't instantiated. So taking this goals list equals create instance, and it's going to be on the Moida screen plus the global screen width. I don't want it to be dead center, so putting it too off center would also bother me. So let's say it's 4 pixels to the left and also a bit up. So Moida Y plus half the screen height. There we go, bit off center. And it's going to live at the depth of the table so that it doesn't get in the way of anything. Not that there should be anything in the way of it. and we also need to give it the class. There we go. Okay. Okay. Load is in. Huh? Oh, that. Oopsie. I forgot to call a function. Silly me. We can close these tabs, go back to the goals list. Of course, I need to get the translation keys. I don't have to reference the room handler object itself for some kind of table.goals property. Have I not defined the translation keys? I think I did. Don't worry, this is just normal power for the course. Everything's working properly. I'm just being a dumb. Yes. The translation key is present, but instead of label, it is title that I want to reference. Because that's what I called it, and that's what we're sticking with. Righto. Okay, now it's successfully launching into the table, which means the instantiation worked. And things are going moderately okay. The text is up here, which is, you know, I can imagine better things, but that's really not a big issue. Why is that? Because we are using the sprite height, not the width for the y coordinate. There we go. So that'll be that. Then thinking real fast, we want to create the list of goals that we still want to achieve. Now we could write out each and every single one of these, or we could not. Or we could not, I tell you. Or we could go into a loop to just create those goals as we go. For that, we are going to need to put the whether or not a goal is achieved. Going to need to put that into an array so that we can access it more easily out of the loop. So goals achieved equals an array, which is IU, and then it's no, I think we just put it into this order. This is roughly the order that you're going to reach them anyway. It does put two very similar goals next to each other, but yeah, that's fine. Okay. So, we want to set this up in a loop. We also want to, in order to reflect whether or not a given goal has been reached, we want to put some kind of difference. Now, I had in mind to use a cutesy little sprite where it's either like a horizontal dash or it's a little heart. A cutesy little paint card, of course, because I've got a very specific kind of style going on here. I am doubting myself a little bit because the goal set, of course, is pink or salmon colored to begin with. That might not be the absolute best idea, but meh. First, give it a try. If it doesn't work, we can either revert the goal set to be a different color, or we can think of something else like dash or check mark. That would work. But what we're going to do before all of that, we're going to define ourselves an offset. Yes. Or what we can do. We do want the goals text X offset. We do want these to be inwards because that helps with legibility, and we need to make space for the dash / heart to be shown. So that's going to be 6 pixels. 8. Try to see what works. Then we want to goal label builder is a copy of the title builder. I am noting now that I also need to store which translation key we want to use in a loopable form. So goal label keys is translation keys dot voice, translation keys dot image, translation keys popularity, and lastly 6 idols. Yeah. From here on out, we can go, instead of what we've configured previously, we want to set the x coordinates to be, well, yeah, this or that. I think we just hard set it. That would probably be better. So instead of using an offset and adding, we are just gonna move this into a constant. Title x offset. Yeah, and now we can reference that constant, title x offset plus 8 times 6 is the goal label x offset. Yeah. So afterwards, we want to set the y coordinate to be equal to the to be just underneath the previous builder. How we can achieve that is there's a very handy method that I made that allows us to get the y underneath the text. If I do this, that's not going to work. What we want to do is we want to grab the last element of the builders, which lives at array length -1, since arrays are 0 indexed, and get y underneath text. That gives us the y coordinate where the two texts are not going to intersect, because the next text, of course, is drawn underneath that. And don't forget, we want to set the text to be get translated string with the role label keys, the if one. Okay, right now this isn't going to update anything, but we can initially also see just how much space are we going to have to work with. Lastly, we want to push this into the builders array. Yeah, that's not going to work. I can see that right now because the builders array is only initialized after all that. Because normally what I would do is I would make all of my builders, assign them into variables, and then make a builders array with those builders. But here I want it to be initialized right at the start. Forgot an underscore. Listen, if it's going to crash, it's going to crash immediately. Why be so specific? Okay. Blah 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 dialogue. So, I'm noting a few things. One, this thing's way too big. We can give it a little more space because this is rather squeezed together. Using the 20-point font is fine enough. We need to use more of an offset because... Oh, I hate that. Really? I suppose, yes. The font, like, right, it's supposed to start right here, yeah? And it's supposed to not go beyond that, but because the letters in this font are so tall, they actually reach up through the offset. So, which is gonna need a bigger offset. But further, I also think that I want to make this make the title larger and add some space between the goals. So, what that's going to mean is give things a bit of space here. Change this into... what fonts do we have? 28 sounds good. And give this some real space. Possibly even 10. See how that feels? We need to make sure to reset the fonts to the smaller one for the individual goals. I do like 20 point. Okay. See that. That does look a lot better. That does look more like a handwritten note. No. I want to make slightly more space here on the left. Slightly more space for more heart. Then I want to shrink these sprites together to the size that it actually needs to be. That's good. That'll work. And after that, what else will we do? Then we want to implement the thing that tells us have we done this thing yet or not, for which we're going to have to use a little sprite that's just a dash or a heart. Easy enough. Okay. With that being said, Step 1 is going to be there. Additional 4 pixels of space. Now, we're going to get right to that, but before we do, I am going to go ahead and take my first midstream break here, because I have been aching on nature's call for an hour at this point. My bladder truly is a thing of wonder that has been trained to seek release every 20 minutes at first. But we'll be right back after that. Take a little break, get up, stretch your legs, get more delicious water. Don't go too far. We'll be right back. See you then. Okay. Let us continue. That was a lot relief, to say the least. I have consumed 2 delicious dates, so that will give me the energy to continue. Sure. We have given this additional offset. That's all good. From here on, we're going to make a builder, a secondary builder. We'll achieve the builder, which is a sprite builder, which needs a sprite, naturally. So for that, let me take another look. How large are we talking? It's going to be a bit difficult to get the accurate measure, but hey, we can get an approximate, and from there we can work things out. So I'm just gonna take a quick snap. Then we're gonna create a new sprite, whatever. This is just for reference. Okay. Now, here we have it. From here we can count the pixels, as it were. First, we need to align this to the pixel grid, so we're going to put the pixel grid at the pixely resolution. You'll see it ain't aligned, but we can make it so. There we go. Now we are pixel aligned. So from here we can count. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say 8 pixels tall, and we've got plenty of space on the horizontal. So make it 8 by 8, maybe? That seems okay. Now, thank you, Sprites 263. You will be missed, but you will be recreated very shortly. No, sorry. I was in the wrong space. Wasn't I? No, right, this is the small version of it, right? What? No, I've just moved the wrong sprite up. That's funny. Okay, the small version of it. What I want to see is this heart here, which is just kind of how I draw them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we can steal that. I think that would serve us just fine and dandy. So consequently, we are going to make a new sprite, which is going to be 2 different images. It's going to be this heart, and it's also going to be a dash. So we're going to need 2 frames. One is the heart, and one is using a dark, well, a black. I would like to see the middle of this. Is that possible? Look, great artistry is happening. Ta-da! Maybe we even do something like this and... No, I don't like that. Nope! I mean, we can do something like I've done with the current font. But I think I'm just going to go with the fake black bar for now. There we go. You are right. Goal achieved. There we go. There are multiple ways of implementing this. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to use this sprite except that we are of course going to differentiate between small and scaled up version, but we can just scale up this version since we are already referencing it. 9 times 6 is 54. And with always using this sprite, we are going to control whether it is the dash or the heart by setting the sub image to if we have achieved the IVE goal, then 1, otherwise 0. Go. We also need to configure this further. We have set sprite and sub image. It is relative by default. We need to move it properly into place. And its proper place is the Y coordinate that the builder also uses. Possibly it's going to want to go 1 display pixel up, but for now, keep it the way that it is. My headset wants to be plugged in. That is of course reasonable. That X wants to be the left side of the image plus this wants to be a constant. As soon as it gets complicated, just use a constant. It's fine, I promise. Goal achieved X offset. Also, this wants to have an underscore here. Goal achieved X offset is the left side of the image plus 2 pixels of space plus, for sprite builders, you need to be exact. Get the width of this sprite, which is sprite goal achieved, half. Okay. And we also want to insert this into the list of builders. Perfect. So now at the end, this list is going to have 9 elements and all of them are going to be referenced and built. We want to very specifically insert the text builder second so that it ends up as the continuously last element so that we can get its Y coordinate underneath. We need to extract this. Like, if we are making a constant, yeah, we should probably add the offset in the constant so that it is properly used by the sprite and text builder. Yo. That should be good. See how that works. See if maybe we want to do something else, though. The Is it even or is it odd sizes? I'm trying to think. There is a size where it's really complicated to make an X because there's not a clear middle and it is an even size, so we could actually turn this into an X if we find that this here black bar is maybe a bit intrusive. We might just find that, I'll admit. Also, this needs to be further over. So, move another 2 pixels over. And yeah. I've decided you are not going to be a black bar, you are going to be a black X which has a perfect middle, so it looks good. That, delete and update. Take this, rename and upscale. Yeah. Now, I do also want to move the sprite down slightly. Let's try if it is 2 display pixels further down. How does it look? Of course, I've changed both how the sprite looks and where it is displayed in the same graph, which is not exactly the scientific method, but it wants to be 1 pixel further up. It might even want to be one like slightly smaller, but largely this is what I want out of it. So y plus 1 display pixel, and then I'm just going to set this here to true so that we can see how it looks when a heart is displayed, not just an X. Yeah, that looks okay. That looks quite good. Good enough to keep working on it anyway. So, from here, we need to shrink down this by, I don't know, it looks like that might be 24. Well, it wants to be about 2.5 corners, so that's maybe 20 pixels on the side, and it can solidly be 4 corners, so 32 vertically. Is that good? Yeah. I am noting that I'm maybe not the biggest fan that these indicators are flush with the title text now, because that kind of undoes the effect of moving this over. But don't hate it. Don't hate it. There are some other approaches that I could do. Of course, I could increase the offset so that this X is like over here and the text starts after that. Let's do that. Because I really do hate it. I really do. Do hate that so much. Next, however, we are still going to want to take off a solid 16 pixels here. That should be just enough. And from here, There. 16 pixels on the side, 32 on the bottom. This might be appropriate, this might be too much. I don't know. We'll see. This is now 80 pixels tall and 152 pixels wide. Top left. There. Now we shuffle this back up to transfer the changes. I mean, these simple trivial changes I could also make on the large version directly, but it's good practice to be sure that what you've changed is actually fully applied rather than making changes individually and risking making everything out of sync. Yeah. Yeah. I need to reassociate this with the goals list, because even though most everything in GameMaker is associated by name, the sprites actually are linked by reference. So if you delete it, then it's gone from the object. Now, there are ways around that. You can set it in the code and then it is referenced by name, but it's probably better not to add more references by name. Yeah. Might mess with that a little bit to give more space here. Yeah. Give more space on this side, and I suppose we'll just get right to that, huh? Also, fortunately, my fears were unwarranted. I mean, it's a bit of a clash. Certainly, the colors are similar here, but Butterfly's text box color and the bright pink I've chosen for the hearts is distinct enough that it's well legible. Just like black text on this color. Should be, at least. So, one more tiny change, then we are done resizing. So, resize this to, I'm gonna say 156. And fill in all the space that we've just added. Here, here. And once again, transfer the change to the large version. I insist this doesn't take that long, and it's worth it for the effect. You can disagree. It is a bit of manual labor that you have to continuously do, but I mean, how often do you really update a sprite? Most of the time, you make it, you put it into context, and then that's good. Once it's finished, it's not going to change by that much. And I really like the way that this looks, even though it is an absolute joy to draw at times. It's an absolute joy to draw. Because, listen, the total game window has the resolution of a Game Boy Advance, just about. Only that we want this to look decent on modern screens, so there's really not a lot of space to put anything to give any amount of detail. The upside is, you don't have to. Because you can't, nobody expects it of you. Huzzah! It certainly helps with me having no artistic talent whatsoever. Though I may have found a solution to that anyway. I will update once we know more. So, consequently, consequently, what we still need to do is we need to not make this fake. We need to actually update the state as we find it. And for that, what we're gonna do is we are gonna... I'm thinking right now, there are two options. One, we evaluate the state in the room handler and then pass in whether each goal is achieved in the creation code, or alternatively, we make a function in the room handler that this calls. I'm more partial to the second idea, to be honest. And those can just be 3 individual functions, I think. So, actually, one of those already exists, don't it? Max popularity ever. Yes. We could just reuse that. This is a function that I made. I'm not sure where it's used, actually. Is it used anywhere? It is not. So yeah, there we are. In order to properly work out, hey, does the balancing work? Are you going to be able to reach all those milestones that I set out with the popularity that is required of you? I went about recording, well, what's the popularity that you have reached? And then I figured I may as well give it a getter. And now that is available. How very cute. Also, I'm remembering one more thing, that it's not just the 4 goals that we want to track, we also want to track how much time remaining. So we'll do that in a sec. And days remaining builder. So that's that. We do not, however, have a getter for this or that, so let's set about implementing those. Thinking about where to properly put this, I think we just plonk it somewhere here. In fact, what we're going to do, is we are first going to take this creation code and we're gonna move it out. Create targets elements. Because as soon as you do more than call a single function, you should move that code into a dedicated function, which is going to be right down here. Function creates targets elements. Yeah. There. So, and now, of course, we have the perfect spot to place our getter functions. So, pass idle with 200 voice. For that, we're going to go through, for each idle that is in the recruited, array length, for each idle in the recruited idle starter, if recruited game maker. I'm going to need you to maintain focus on the menu that you were focused on. Otherwise, this ain't gonna work. Dot voice. No, get voice is greater than or equal to 200. Return true. If none was found, return out false. Easy enough. And copy paste. Could be get image. You could this more generically. You could do this with stat names and whatnot and all that. But I think this is fine. Just going to check real fast that this recruited idols data is what I expect of it. So where's this instantiated? It's in restore from self data. Yeah, that's good. That is in fact the idle data. So that's good. That'll work out. So those functions are now available for the goal list to call. So we're just gonna do that right away. As idle with 200 voice, which is what I called it. Yes, yes. GameMaker isn't aware of it, but that is what it's called. Okay. Now, from here, what we need to do is find the days remaining until Starfield Sky Festival, which is on the 1st of June. And we already have a time tracking, which is, yes, it's that's fine. That's fine. Yes, yes, yes. So we also translate the day that it currently is, well, the day that it is in the save data, since the game always takes place in 2004. We translate that into a date, but that's actually kind of unnecessary, because we can just say this is in object game. Starting date. Here it is. So we can just say that there are 42 weeks in the game, and say Starfield Sky Festival is on the 42nd times 7 day. So what I mean is Starfield Sky Festival day is 42 times 7. And I'm just going to very quickly make sure that that math checks out. I may be off by 1 week. It's between 10/08/2004 and 01/06/2005. Which of course is completely misinterpreted, because it's interpreted as the American spelling of it, but that's fine. (2004). The 11th of August, actually it was. Because that was Wednesday. and leading up to 2005, June the 1st. 294 days, which looks like it checks out. That's 280 plus 14. Yeah. I'm still not sure that fully checks out, because if we run it on day 1, because we are off by 1, yeah? Technically the game starts counting on the 10th of August, which was a Tuesday, because we want to show it as day 1. So I'm just gonna count it like so. Okay. Then we can head back into the room handler and give it one more function to give us this data. It's lost where I defined the other one. Target elements here. Function get days until start. Well, Sky Festival. Return double dot start. That day minus the day in the saved data. Yes, which is dynamically updated as we progress through the game and save continuously as we reach the table. I had a teensy tiny thought that it may be not. It may not be, because it may be set as we load and then not changed, but we do actually mess with this since we want the in-memory representation of the saved data to be accurate. Okay. Now, to do that, we are going to need another text builder, which is slightly different than the rest. It may want to live above the goals, it may want to live below. I'm gonna say it lives below. So, the base remaining builder is it a copy? Is it just completely reconfigured? I think it's a new text builder, which does use the handwriting font, but slightly smaller. So let's make that 16, because it's supposed to be like a little note scribbled. Also, how does this time update when it's written on paper? Don't worry about it, is my answer. We want to set the X to, let's say, the title X offset, set the Y to the last Y, basically to this. Yes, about this. Let's try that. We want to interpolate a number into the text, so first we're going to get the template string, which is stored at this location. It's translation keys dot days remaining. This gives us a string with a placeholder that defines where does the number go. We still need to interpolate that. So days remaining text is interpolate the template with data being, what did I call it? number of days equal to, well, get days, what's it called? Man, it would be really cool if I had a development environment that was at all able to suggest me function names or something. But listen, GameMaker tries in very rare circumstances. It even manages to give correct suggestions and not random nonsense, so let's not be negative. That's just silly. There's enough negativity in the world. On that note, we might get to that today, might not. I've made another thing, a list of cheerful little phrases to fill out the start screen when it's not otherwise occupied, just to make things a little cuter, a little more cheerful, a little brighter for the player. So, as for this, we want to set in the interpolated text. Further wants to set the scale to 2. And let's see how this goes. Generally, these kinds of scribbled in notes, I like to keep them in gray or with a reduced alpha, but in this case, let's try pure black. It's not the thing that I think it is. It appears so. What's happening is the game is crashing because the idols data that we have here ain't what I think it is. So let's go and take a look. Most likely this is just like, this is a me error. The game's working perfectly well, but because I don't have a type assertion here, I'm not positive what the type is. So let's take a look. Recruited idols data. No, get voice is a function. Sorry, let me hide the game real fast because it's not doing anything interesting anyway. Get voice is a function, but I should maybe dereference the array. Yes, that's the second time that I've done that today. That's not cute. Okay, my own incompetence aside, let us give this another try. There we go. Of course, I have already helpfully trimmed the goals list to be smaller, significantly smaller so, in fact. But that's fine, we can grow it again. That's just okay. So, it is now dynamically fetching whether or not you have achieved a given goal. So, if we go, let's say, to here, here in this save, I do in fact have a band with 100 butterflies, so that is showing as complete. Perfect. I mean, fundamentally I could make a function that tells me, do you have 6 total idols, but again, you never will. If you see this, you don't have 6 idols. In fact, it gets replaced before you get the 5th. 6 is right out. So, what we're gonna do is we need to, of course, add this builder into the list of builders. Base remaining builder. Yep. And see how that looks. See how much space that needs. We're certainly going to have to grow the goals list, but the question is by how much? Or we might not. You know what, I'm just thinking. It's kind of awkward down there. I don't think we should put it right there. Instead, what we're going to do is, since there's plenty of space, we can just take this and shove it up here. And we can also use another trick, which is we can use right aligned text to draw it at a specific point of the right border. So this is going to be right width by 2 minus 4 times 6. Your y is equal to, I'm gonna say, slightly more than the title's y, because these are top aligned, meaning if I just set it to the same y, then it's going to look weird. It's going to be off center because the text is smaller. Now, I need to make good on my promise, and that means right here, after the font is set, but before the X is set, it doesn't actually matter in what order that I do this, but I like to be specific and call these methods in the order that they are declared. Just so that I can very quickly tell, do I do a given thing or do I not? Okay, right is going to be a constant for this one, so that I can tell very quickly, like, if I called set v align, then it would be right here. If it isn't here, then it's not present, rather than having to check every single method call. Further, what we are going to do is I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna set the alpha a little down. Something like this. We can also set the color to gray. Either one would work. There, see that? Perfect. It's actually a bit far down. I think I'll scoot it 1 pixel up so that it is better middle aligned with this text. But that's good, I think. That looks real cool. And this is going to dynamically update for all of the month that it's at all visible. Yep. Okay. Perfect. So instead of 12, make this 11. And then that's that. From there, we need to go back to the table room handler. Last thing that we need to do with the goals list is the dialog introducing it, obviously, needs to now properly highlight it. And now that we have created a sprite, I can instead of this random guess that I made, I can use the correct values. Sprite get width of the sprite goals list in half, and do the same thing. Oop. Need to remove the times 6, otherwise some very weird stuff would happen. Yeah. Playlist, you're always on that song. I like that. That one's nice. And likewise. So we've got the starting point, which is the left border of it, and we've got the end point, which is the right, well, the right and bottom border of it. Okay. Wonderful. Give that a shot. Remember to turn off skip dialog, otherwise we won't be able to see whether it is properly highlighted or not. Just want to see real fast. No, this is going to show for a decent while. It's going to show for 3 different sorry, what am I saying? It's going to show for 6 weeks until the other element is introduced. Dialogue, words. That's not right. Yes, because the goals list isn't in the center of the screen. So, easy enough. We just need to grab the offsets that we created at. Okay, goals list is created at -4 and -6 offset. So, -4 times 6 and -6 times 6. Excellent. Try that again, see how the highlight looks. You know what? I don't love it. I don't love how this looks now. Like, or specifically, I like the text. I might want to scoot butterfly here down by like, let's call that 10 display pixels. But I don't like the color after all. And the reason for that is that right now we've got 3 different pink elements that are, well, quite literally the same color. Because the text box color is, in Butterfly's case, her text box color is just her background color. And then we're making this the same. That is too repetitive. I would like to change that back to normal white. But we can do just that. So, targets, butterfly photo, X. We can fix this just on the fly. Shuffle it down a bit so that she doesn't cover the text. She does that a lot, I've found. She frequently does that. And that's kind of her thing, that she covers up stuff and don't worry about it. But in this case, it's not intended. Okay. From here. we're gonna do is we're going to recolor this. So thankfully I've still got the original so that we can go to base white and just like on this reference layer here, just plonk it down so that we can copy the colors. There and there. Excellent. Sneeze. No. It really doesn't wanna. When I remember to mute the microphone first, it doesn't want to come. Well, I'll take a drink of water instead. Delish. Okay. And I mean, this is just base white, and I'm going to store this color here. Because rather than copying the entire thing and moving and resizing, instead of that, I'm just gonna do this in the full size one. Huh. You know what? I don't hate this border. Let's keep that in mind. Though I don't think that's right to use right now. It does create an interesting kind of effect. I know that in Swiss architecture, some... Oh geez, this would have been medieval time. So, some centuries ago, it was rather popular to use white and red as, well, painting colors for the facade of your house. Or at least in public, or what do we call it, guild houses. And for good reason, right? It's lovely. It looks cool. Which might be a style that I'm more than slightly emulating here with my white and pink style. But let's give this a C. Okay, butterfly is out of the way. She is just about touching the speech bubble. Let's move her over a few pixels to the right as well. But other than that, this looks... Yeah, she definitely needs to go over a bunch. Or just accept that she's going to cover it. I'm gonna go with move her over. No, for that, take her X. And shuffle her like this many pixels that way. Okay. Out of that, what are we doing? That's this, pretty much handled. This also provides a very convenient solution to something else that I had been dreading a little bit, which is so this is going to be displayed until this dialogue right here. Until this dialogue. That's going to be displayed. After that, we want to get rid of it. And that's actually quite simple. We can then just say, hey, what has Butterfly done with the goals list now that something else has taken its place? Very simple. Create crumpled paper on the screen. Moida. She's crumpled it up. Because that's how she deals with all excess paper. And why I've been dreading this, even though this is a very simple function call, is if the paper was pink, then it wouldn't make sense to spawn a white paper ball. But now that it is once again white, we can totally just do that. Instead of having to like provide a way to give a blend color, which is also very doable, of course. That wouldn't be an issue. I would just have to make that. Okay. On that very note, there's something that I want to look at, which is object idle monthly. Yes, right. Yes. Okay. So, this is the magazine Idle Monthly. Spawns every month, and the following week, likewise, it's crumpled up. Well, there's a very slight bit of suspension of disbelief here, because of course it's a magazine. It's not like it's not some IEEE publication or something. It's maybe 10-15 pages thick, so it is something that you could conceivably ball up, but it is also not a single sheet. But don't worry about it. I don't think anyone's really going to notice that that doesn't make sense. So, Idle Monthly is properly turned into a crumpled paper ball. I might want to change this function slightly more. That is if we have a quick look-see. At the very start of the game, you have a letter that is delivered to you from Miss Akisa. It is still present here. It's that. I believe at the... Is it at week 4 or week 5 when Idle Monthly starts spawning? It's at week 5 that it is crumpled up. We can actually... We can argue that it should maybe be crumpled up 1 week earlier. Let's see. Yes. So this dialog spawns the crumpled paper. Although, no, that's fine. Because it's a plot element that... It's a plot element that teacher doesn't clean up their desk. And Butterfly mentions that, which is why this crumpled paper ball is here. This is what used to be the starting letter. And this brought me this entire idea of Butterfly doesn't really care, so she should balled it up. And we'll remove it by next week. Likewise, this is the same week that the concepts viewer starts, right? Yes. She goes right past the question. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay, perfect. This is the same week where the concept viewer starts, which means, compared to last week, where you have a stack of exams, Suddenly those are gone. I wonder what might have happened to them. Weird. I hope somebody picks up on that. Right? I genuinely do hope so. I mean, it's not like this was a huge bit of work. Do you want to peek behind the curtain? Here it is. This is a sheet of waste paper that I have folded up, and I have drawn it into the paper ball sprite that we see. Lonk. What fun. Right. Yeah, that was that. It wasn't a huge amount of work, but less so to make my work worthwhile, more I would really love if people pick up on this, that all the papers go missing because of Butterfly. Anyway, um, so then, and then, one more time, the plot hook plays on day 57. Do I have a save for that? Yes. Man, I'm so good at this game that I made. Righto. Yes, perfect. So, this used to be... Words. That's a lot of words. Pity I'm not reading them. So, here we have what used to be the goals list. Butterfly disposed of it. There it is. This, of course, this used to be the essay stack turned into a crumpled paper pole, but very conveniently, that's already properly set up. In just this week, you get another paper bowl on this screen. Okay. So, this is all very properly set up. Beautiful. Let's have another look at the dialogue in which Butterfly introduces you to the goals list, as if that was a game mechanic that was actually going to matter, just to make sure that she is positioned well and out of the way of teachers' lines. That's good. That's good. Appreciate that. Wonderful. Okay. Cool. Okay. So then. Now, that's, I suppose we call that good. Which means there's one thing that I would like to do real fast. If we go, let's say, to this save, which is conveniently the first one where we can show it, and one with a very long dialogue. But it is supposed to be the main story hook, so it's forgiven. Right here, what I want to do is I want to add a little gray scribble. Let's say down here, which tells you that the portraits that you see here, they are not actual photos, they are drawings produced by Elf, because she has a very specific style to use these faceless kinds of characters. maybe because that's how she sees people. Don't worry about it. So, for that, we can go into the object targets viewer and we just add a little label. I've already prepared that earlier. So, we do have that, and just making sure before I embarrass myself, in the targets space there is a translation key named sketch by elf, and in the translation key definition it is not present. Haha! Needed that. There we go. One crash avoided. Even though it would have been no issue at all, right? It would have immediately shown up as I tested, but it's good enough. So, sketch by elf label equals retrieve that string. Since I'm not holding out, or rather, I don't have specific plans for this game to ever be translated, but I'm certainly open to the possibility, and at any rate, maintaining this separate translation object is a whole lot easier than actually writing all the strings in the code. Imagine doing that. Imagine you've got this huge variable, you call it dialog array, global.dialog array even, so that it can be accessed from anywhere, and you just write all your dialog data in there, and it's a whole array of arrays because you want the dialog line and who's saying it and some magic numbers for what should happen during that line. Yes, I am calling out a specific person who codes like that, but that's okay because don't make fun of game developers for having bad codes. Game developers are primarily creative people. They have not had the same experience of writing productive code that I have had. I come from a very technical background, so my code looks better, but my creativity is much worse. Trade-offs that we make. I don't know why I went on this rant, really. Let's get another quick sip of water. What is important? Okay. So, just thinking real fast. I'm sorry, what? What am I? I'm a little baffled by what I've done here, but that, I suppose, works, yeah. Because, right, we're not setting the text of anything because that's dynamically done. Okay, we'll just put it in here. So, what we want to do is we want to go underneath the requirements. So that's right here. So sketch by elf builder equals requirement builders 1. Create a copy of it and move it down like so. Set text to sketch by elf label. Now, that is going to be largely majoritively good, but I don't want it to be pure black. I want it to be light gray, and for that we are going to go to the... Sorry, I looked at the sprite, not at the object. Idle summary display. Here it is. Because we already do something quite like that here, and it is very helpful if you can, well, reference how you're doing stuff. In this case, I discovered that I have defined this as a color constant so that I use the one that I intend to. There we go. Now, add that in, sketch by elf builder, and we should be done on that, unless I've done something silly, which is extremely likely. Before I go back to that week, let's turn skip dialog back on. Thank you, butterfly. Just to skip through that rather voluminous dialogue. There we go. Doesn't that look good? Yeah. I mean, I could do this similar to the idle decks, where if we go over here, we've got this, yeah? It's over in the corner, it's diagonal. It was an absolute joy to place this, because I set up my builders in such a way that if you change the rotation, then it also moves the text in such a way as, well, right here, look. If I pick up the photo of Jade, then it slightly angles and the text moves in order to remain in the same position relative to where it was without rotation. That is a very cool system that I don't want to change. Man, I keep hearing this little car accelerating from the ambient sound in the game, and it really does sound like there's a car outside. But there's not, though. There isn't, I promise. So, but what we're going to do instead is, instead of having this up here, even though the space is clear enough, it would actually, yeah, it would get in the way here. And I think this is well enough. Fill out this list a little. That's cute. Okay. That's good. Okay. So, as for afterwards, if we go, let's say, to day 36, which is a day without an idle monthly issue, without anything, even without dialogue, and this is rather empty. And that is what I would like to change. So, as I said, I've got a bunch of 4 to 5 word phrases that are little, cute, encouraging things. I want to put a scrap of paper with that, so that you have something cute as you enter the table. And it's not just nothing, and you don't want to just get off this screen as soon as possible. Which means make a little scrap of paper sprite, make that as large as it needs to be, probably also make it in Butterfly's handwriting, and the text can be pretty large on it. It might want to be as large as... No, not quite this large. Well, here's our beautiful A/B test. How large do I want the text to be? I want it to be larger than this, but not quite this large, which is the 28-point font. So 20-point fonts might just about do. I might go down to 16. We'll see about that. And also, because we're talking about butterfly, there's just continuously going to be a paper bowl here, because anytime that something else spawns, like specifically anytime that an issue of Idle Monthly spawns here, we just spawn a paper bowl. And of course each week the little text that you see is different. So we want to spawn a paper bowl to indicate that the previous paper scrap has met an end. Now, we are going to attend to that in just a few minutes' time. As looking at the clock now, it is once again time for my second midstream break. I can certainly feel that it is, if you get me. So, one more time, I'm going to take a little break. Feel free to do the same. Stand up, stretch your legs, use the bathroom, refill your water, as you like. Don't go too far. In a few minutes' time, we're gonna continue here, and we are going to implement these. I'm gonna call them fortune cookies, because that's just about what we're talking about. We're gonna implement the fortune cookie scraps. See you then.
For the first time, it's like I'm gonna try it, and then it's
Okay. Let's continue. Sorry, I was in the bathroom, but I still had my headset on. Don't worry about it. Hey Viat, you're a pretty cool dude. Did you know that? Thanks for the follow. Right. Let us continue. Let us continue as I described. So, this is going to be the fortune cookie scrap. Is going to be another super simple object that doesn't need any state updates. This is going to be... I should divide this by screen, really. Yeah, but now I've got enough objects here that there's a point to making a start folder, because this and that is supposed to go there. Then we're going to create an object here. I'm not going to call it fortune's cookie scrap. Encouragement scrap. There we go. So this is going to be super simple. It's going to have two things. It will have... I need to find my spreadsheet again. There it is. It is going to... we call it advice. Yep, okay, let's rename this so that we don't use different words for everything. That might sound like completely trivial advice, but it really is. One of the best pieces of advice I have found in my career of development is just use the same words. If you are referring to the same thing, use the same word. If you are referring to a different thing, try to use different words, unless the context makes it abundantly clear. And think of the context as from the eyes of someone who has never seen your code before, because in 2 months' time, at worst, that's going to be you. You're going to have no idea what your code does. We have a lot of context that's just loaded into our brains. As we make it, there's hundreds of lines of code that you have to keep in mind, and I'm pretty good at it. I have a very extensive memory that allows me to recall basically anything, but even I don't always remember everything, and there's some things that I consciously keep out, like the syntax for builders. So this has two things. The label is stored at translation keys dot advice label, and we want to further get a piece of advice, which advice is an array, which is just stored here. But we don't want to just take this at random, because then more and more there would be the chance to get repeats, and I can avoid that if I store which ones we've shown in the save data and then filter out those ones so that we always show something new before showing a repeat. Water break. But I think an easier way to do this is to use an even distributor, which is only going to avoid repeats as long as you keep the game running. But I think likewise on a new day it's going to be fine to potentially show a repeat. So for that, we are going to, well, first we're going to have to experiment a tiny bit. Because GameMaker has this concept of a static variable, which means it is instantiated once and then that code never runs again, which is perfect because if I just define an even distributor as it is, then okay, that doesn't work. Perfect. If I just define an even distributor, let's say like this, yeah, var distributor equals new even distrib. See what I'm doing? I am being inconsistent with my style. This is capitalized because in Java objects are capitalized, but that means that I'm not sure, should it be uppercase, should it be lowercase? That's bad. It doesn't matter what your style is. The GameMaker suggested style is this. This is called snake case, where your functions are lowercase and when you go to a new word you put an underscore. This thing. There are different ways of going about it. I personally prefer Java style, which is camel case, we call it, where you actually start with an uppercase letter, so it would be this, and you don't put any separator, it's just a new uppercase letter for the new word. But because GameMaker of course has built-in functions that are written in snake case, I found it easier to just stick with the style. There's no correct style, there is a correct style for a project and it is whatever everyone else is using. Right, so, but I'm only doing this as a demonstration. This would reinstantiate it, which means every time that I make an advice scrap, which is every time we go to the table, we'd get a new random choice. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we are going to move out to scripts and we're gonna put this. Translation would be a decent place. Don't I? No, I don't really have anywhere better to put it. Strings? No, this is for operating on strings. Let's put it in translation, because I don't know what else I would put here. This is, so far this group is just for getting the translated strings. So, get advice. Very good function name. So, the reason that we need to make this function instead of putting it in the object is that GameMaker doesn't allow you to put static stuff outside of functions. That's what the error was about previously. So, static advice distributor is a new even underscore distributor with gets translated string global.translation keys speaking table.advice. Yeah. Now we have this one object, and anytime we call this function, we're going to get the same object. in other, more capable languages, the concept of static goes beyond this, but the basic function of it... Music, you're being way too hyped right now. I'm talking about stuff, okay? That one's better. Right. That's the basic idea of static, is there's only one of it. In Java, for instance, static is how you go from object-oriented programming to functional programming, which means why do you need a functional programming language? I don't know. You don't really... sorry, I'm slandering other languages again. But static moves something from an instance variable to a global variable of that class. You would better Google that when it matters to you. But basic idea remains, there's only one of these. So we are going to get return advice distributor dot get random element with even spread. Yeah. And even though this is written inside here, don't be deceived. This should work. This is actually the first time that I'm using static, but I remember that's the syntax. And GameMaker lied to you a little bit about it, because even though the static block is inside the function, it's not going to be executed there. At out of the game, GameMaker goes through your project and pulls out each static block and executes it right then and there. Which means, let's just launch the game real fast. No, that works. No, right. Sorry, I got that wrong. It's not at the start of the game, it's when you first execute that function, which is actually kind of clever. So when you first execute that function, that static value is set, and from then on out, the static code isn't going to run again. You just have access to the static thing. So, but that's a whole lot of talking and not a lot of coding. What we need to do is we just create two builders. Label builder is a new text builder, which has the font of the handwriting font at 20 point. And at this point, I do need to make a sprite. So, how large does that need to be? I don't know. Let's make a thing and see if it is too large, too small, what have you. What shape do I want it to be? That's a better question. I think literally looking ripped out is cool. And I don't want it to be perfectly rectangular like these, right? In fact, I want to give it a jagged border. So what we're gonna do is table reflects the group that we've just made to here as well, so that everything is where you expect it to be. So idle monthly and opening letter can move to the start place, and these are of course the full size ones. So we want to go down to the small scale to draw them initially. Start. Grab idle monthly, opening letter, put it in there. There we go. Right. Advice scrap is what we called it. This is the small version. I'm going to take a random guess. It's not like 20 points correlates to anything. I've ranted about this before, how font sizing makes absolutely no sense. But I want it to be roughly... Let's make it 40 by 40. Or make it slightly wider than it is tall. So let's say 30 by 40. And then what we're gonna do is we are going to take the border color and just draw that out. So I want it to be even wider. Right away. 50 pixels wide. There. Oops. Selection tool. So I want the border to be jagged on this side, or like so, like give it a little rounding, but not much more. Then on this side it is supposed to be torn off. So for that, we're just gonna randomly scooch it up and down and up and down. There. And then we go back to white and fill out the rest. That actually doesn't look horrible. I don't like this corner. But there we go. That actually looks semi-decent. It's a bit weird to have precisely one torn corner, I admit. Do we want to fix that? Not really. I think for now we just keep it the way that it is. Iteration, we call that. Make a thing, see if you like it, see if you don't. And I actually like these rounded corners. Right. I mean, I don't even know what size it needs to be yet, right? So we're literally just gonna make a thing and refine. So this is going to be 300 pixels wide at full size. And there we go. At this point we associate the sprite with it. Advice, scrap. It's the sprite that we want to give it. Then, okay, now what we need to do, we can't just start the writing at the left edge, because sprite width by 2 minus that would put it in the jagged space over here. That's not good. That wouldn't be cool. So what I think we're going to do is, instead of that, we're actually not going to set the X at all. We're going to make the X centered, and instead we're going to set the alignment so that it's like actually centered on top. Likewise, we're gonna use the same trick as we did previously. Give this enough space at horizontal alignment to font alignment middle. Yep. And I think I'm getting my order wrong. Yes, horizontal alignment should come before the Y. So, do that. Then afterwards we can set the text, which is just label. There we go. And again, likewise, we are going to do this super simply. Device builder is label builder create copy with a different Y. Somewhere I could use the Y underneath the label builder. Let's try. Get Y underneath text. And then I need to also set the text to that. And that can be kind of that, at least for a first try. Place your bets now. Is this going to crash? Yes or no? It's possible that this stuff isn't present where I want it to be, but I am willing to find out. Otherwise, well, we need to create this object, of course. So this might be a little complicated. Also, don't forget, we're using builders, which means those need to be used. And at this point, I'm sure everyone has well memorized how to do this. Loop over array length builders. Feel sad that GameMaker doesn't have enhanced for loops. But deal with it. For each builders, go in and builders I.build. You know, I did think about making a script which is just build all builders or something like that. And I didn't end up doing it because, like, this loop is easy enough. And if I made that script, sure, I could rely on that whatever object calls that function has a variable called builders, and that's what I want to use. Or I could make the builders array an argument to the function, but it really didn't seem worthwhile. If we did anything else, maybe, but not like this. Even though, notably, I am currently I am contradicting the advice I constantly give. This is a piece of code that is constantly reused, and yet I have not moved it into a function. So there is that. It possibly for that reason alone, to avoid code duplication, maybe it should be a function. But it isn't. And you will be forgiven for duplicating a for loop, especially because it's not always the same. Water break. Okay, now that we have properly made this, head over to the table room handler, and what we want to do is I want to create a advice scrap on any week except when I create except when I create idle monthly. Vlad, not Viat. That's fine, I'll keep that in mind. I like it. I have a question. Do I feel confident in GameMaker? Do I do what I feel like? Well, let's put it this way. I have been using GameMaker for 2 years at this point, largely on this project. And I did, before I started, I did research it some. I looked up tutorials. Friendly Cosmonaut is her name. She makes some wonderful tutorials that you can follow along, which is maybe better suited for an absolute beginner than listening to my ramblings as I do things in a random way. But, well, let's put it this way. Not all languages in code are the same, but they do rhyme, right? Like, this stuff, you could write this in Java, and that's perfectly valid Java, except for the no one keyword, but other than that, this would be perfectly fine. So having a lot of experience, having a lot of experience in code in general, and having worked with a lot of languages already, this is, after all, my day job. But having that experience certainly helps. And there are still things about GameMaker that I discover almost every day that I work with it. I'm not the world's biggest expert, but thanks to my background, I can make sense of a lot of the stuff that it does, I'm going to say. Because ultimately, again, all languages are a little bit the same underneath. So I can figure out when GameMaker does this, then what it's doing at a more abstract level under the hood is it's doing this, and that's like this other thing that I already know from Java or from working with C and whatnot. So, it's kind of both. I'm certainly making my code a little more loose than I would at work. I am kind of just doing what I feel like is correct at the time instead of sticking to a hard style. But I think I've largely got this. I can make it do what I want, yeah? So, on that note, what do we want it to do? So, I want to rename this function here. I work mainly in Java. It is, well, during my computer science degree, it was the main language that we worked with, and I am happy for that because we'll call it start screen elements. Because, well, it certainly is a lot easier to get interviews if you can show, hey, I have a few years of experience in Java. That's a lot of jobs that will be interested in you. Because as much as Java does have its downsides, and I'm not... Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think Java is really popular, and for a reason. Ironically enough, I don't think it's well suited for game development. I know Notch made Minecraft in Java, but for the large part, you don't use it for game dev. Partly, I mean, you absolutely can, but it's not as well supported. There's not as much to help you with it. And GameMaker, of course, is purpose-built for game development. So it's a lot easier to use GameMaker. But other than that, when I just make like a thing that, when I make programs privately to do stuff that I want, I do also use Java. I just like it. It is actually my favorite language, and so I try to keep working with it in every job that I get. So one more time. So rename the function. Now, when we spawn idle monthly, we don't want to... Java is freedom. Yes, indeed. I feel like when I send out applications, for every second company that I apply to, I just get an interview very quickly. It's nice. It is very cool. So, if I spawn an idle monthly, then I don't want to spawn an advice scrap. Otherwise I do. So, let's do that. Function create advice scrap, which is going to, when it is called, I'm not sure where yet, but when it is called, we want to pick an X and a Y. I'm just initializing to 6 for the moment. And return create instance relative. We want this to be on the start screen. So screens dot start. Actually, no. This should be just like so. So the X and Y coordinates at the depth of the table. I thought about making this draggable so that you can pick up this advice scrap and move it around. I might do that. Hey, we can change it. That's the beauty of code. Nothing is set in stone. Do I plan to monetize my project? I do, actually. Because I feel like, well, I always feel a little dirty talking about this, but, you know, I have been on this for 2 years with the goal to monetize it, and this is capitalism. I feel that it is worth a bit of money, not a lot, right? I'm planning to put it up for maybe $10 with regional pricing, so that let me quickly object advice scrap with regional pricing, because I've discovered one, not all countries are rich. I live in Switzerland. I get paid very well. Things are also expensive here, but relatively speaking, spending $70 on a game is less money for me than it would be for someone who makes like $1,000 in a month, right? That's just a world of difference. And I've also discovered that not only the world is very different in different countries, but that doesn't mean that people in less wealthy countries are all farmers or something. No, like they're still civilized. They're just like us. And so the point is, I've put out a small little project previously, and a very good proportion of players are from South America and all kinds of places. And I want to give them access to it too, but it would be unfair to ask full price in a place where monthly wage is $500 on average. That just wouldn't be fair. So Steam fortunately offers regional pricing, which allows you to make the game cheaper in some countries just to give them fair access to it. So I will do that. I have filled out the Steam application that is in the works, so that when it's ready, I will be able to release there, hopefully, but it's looking good so far. And I've got this kind of attitude. If Hit Idle is a massive success and it makes me rich and like I don't need to work anymore, stuff like that, that would be cool. But I'm not banking on that. I'll be happy if Hit Idle can buy me a chocolate bar, which is like 1 copy sold. And I think I can manage that much. Anything more is just cool. and I will do my best. Like, probably, right? Probably I will keep my day job. I will keep my day job and keep working, but hey, I'm open to anything. If I make sufficient money that I can comfortably focus on game dev, I might. That's a kind offer, Vlad. I will see about translating, I'm going to say. Because I have, as we've seen, I have made sure that the game can be translated easily, but then you still need to see, like, is the spacing correct, right? Does the text fit everywhere? But we'll see. I think we're going to try to release it, or, well, that's, that's a few months off at this point. But we can talk about that. We can certainly talk about that. Sorry, I need to make progress here. So I want this to be some kind of offset. So let's say from minus 15 times 6 to plus 15 times 6. The plus is not necessary. Because there are two problems with translation that I have found. One is obvious, and it's not, it is rather easy to solve. The other is more complicated. The obvious thing is I only speak so many languages. I speak English and I speak German at a sufficient level to translate the game. So I could do that myself, but with the help of kind people like you, maybe we can go to other languages too. There is, however, a secondary issue. Yeah, I'll let you know. We have talked on Discord before, after all, so I will get back to you if maybe it's useful, because the second issue is that I'm using some linguistic tricks that I'm not sure they work in all languages. So we want to create an advice scrap if we don't create idle monthlies. So actually, we always want to create a crumpled paper now, yeah? Yes, because we've either crumpled up idle monthly or we've crumpled up the advice scrap. So create an advice scrap here. And in fact, we always create a crumpled paper. Either it's the advice scrap or it is idle monthly. Yeah. So, but the linguistic trick that I use is that I don't, what are we saying? It is that not all of the idols are the same. I don't have Crimson recruited on this save, but that means we are going to go to the save where I do, which is ABC. So Crimson is special because they are genderless. And so they don't go by she, they go by they. And that means that instead of writing she did a thing everywhere, every time that we go to a concert and we write the letter, I should be able to just spam through this here. I substitute in the pronouns of the idol that we're talking about. Where is it? Yeah. Here we have it. So this isn't the best example, but this is an interpolated line. This can be any one. In this case, butterfly has low image, so she's writing about herself. She says, fan recognition is tricky, so I discovered. It could also be, if butterfly is writing about someone else, it could be, so elf discovered. Something like that, alright? And then further down here, Crimson hyped me up to the audience, but we need to get my name out there. If butterfly was writing about elf, she would say, Crimson hyped her up to the audience, but we need to get her name out there. And if it was about Crimson, it would be something like elf hyped them up to the audience, but we need to get their name out there, right? So that's how that system works. And that's what I'm not sure about. The second thing is, in English, if you conjugate like this, in this past tense, it doesn't matter whether you say, so I discovered or so elf discovered. That's the verb form is the same. It's always discovered, it's always hyped, stuff like that. I know that this doesn't work in all languages. For instance, if you did this in French, then you would need to conjugate the verb differently, depending on whether you're talking about yourself or someone else. And that's the difficulty. That is something that I don't have solved yet, because I only thought about English when making this game. So if we want to translate it to somewhere else, to I don't know what your language is. The name Vlad makes me think of Russian, but I'm aware that people are called Vlad in other countries too. So I'm not going to go assuming. Okay, but what we are testing the advice scraps, which means day 29? Yes, but right now it spawns 2 paper balls, which is wrong. This paper ball is the starting letter, so we need to remove it from the starting dialog and just put it, let the function spawn it naturally. But right. What's happening is it's not supposed to spawn idle monthly. It is supposed to just spawn the advice scrap, but in the week after an issue releases, it still does so because I've made my code wrong. That's unfortunate. Let's see, what other saves do we have? Day 50? That crashes. That's okay. So, what I'm doing wrong here. Let's write that. We want to... Yeah. If we are not... If it's the week after creating idle monthly, then create an advice scrap and don't create idle monthly. And we're just going to store this. I don't plan to reference advice scrap at all, but hey, maybe. Now I need to move this up here, because again, every week there is going to be crumpled papers. Yeah, it just is. Which means we go to the dialogue where we first show this off. Which is the next one. No? This one, this one. So, don't create that one here. So, then we need to fix the crash. What are we doing? We are in the advice scrap. We are... Am I dumb? I think I am. Oh, yes I am. Oopsie. Whoopsie. Here. Yep. Right. What I did was... It's not actually table.advice.advice label, it's just table.advice label. I used the wrong key. That's fine. I'm also doing this wrong. Very spectacularly. Setup, start... No, create, start, screen elements. Yeah, I'm on the wrong dang screen, because I'm not on any screen at all. Screen start.x. There. So, hey, about your question, yep. About your question, am I competent? Does it look like it? I'm just doing random stuff. I mean, sure, I'm also not hyper-focusing on the code. I'm also thinking about coding, but that does make sense. I'm also focusing on talking. That's what I mean. But I make silly mistakes. It happens. Like forgetting to call the drawSelf function. Wouldn't that be advantageous? I also feel that not only do we need to draw the sprite itself, the text also is currently just far too big. So what we're going to do is we're going to fit it to the maximum width. By the way, just so we're clear, if we are going to, again, I don't want to say anything specific right now, like this, but just so we're clear, there is a lot of text in this game. So know what you're getting into is all that I'm going to say. Would be pretty cool if you do. Might even be something in it for you, but you know how Google Sheets has a limit of 50,000 characters per cell? Yeah, currently I need to use 4 different cells because there's like 185,000 characters of text. That's not all pure text, but there's still a whole lot of text in this, so translating this isn't going to be the work of an afternoon. It would be very fair to call that a good while. So, anyway, what we're going to do is fit text to maximum width, which is we're going to use the sprite width with a good offset. So remember that this sprite is jagged, so you know what I'm going to do? I am going to set this to be aligned to the left. At the left, so that it starts in front of the jagged line. So set x to, what do we want it to be? I'm not positive. How many pixels do we got here? I want it to be like here-ish. So this is 5, 6 or 7 pixels. Make sure it's clear of that. So x offset is 7 times 6, and we need to go to the left, sprite width by 2, so left edge plus 7 pixels. Then fit text to maximum width is, so we want an offset of the sprite width minus 7, so that it would go to the right edge currently. Minus 7, and give it another, let's say 3 or 4 pixels, let's say 10 pixels, yeah, so that on the left edge it is 7 pixels away, on the right edge it is 3 pixels away, and fit it to be at most that wide. That is slightly larger than I had imagined. Ah. Well, you know, Well, I suppose we have to make that bigger, don't we? Because the text size is good. I want the text to be this size. I'm sorry. Oh. I'm used to making myself look silly, but that something about this just gets me. So, yeah, we need this to be like double size, literally. If it is wider, then it doesn't need to be as tall, but start with that. So it needs to be 100 pixels wide and 60 tall. Move that to the top left, just to make it easier. And draw in the remainder. And GameMaker didn't respond to the to when I pressed the L key to select the line tool, because why would it? It's only supposed to, but it constantly loses focus whenever you do basically anything. But that's fine. It's a huge piece of garbage, but we love our garbage here. Now, I need to make a more jagged line, like so. Slightly less jagged than that. So, and then like so. There we go. We can also, of course, at this point, we could add cute decorations like lines that she's written on, but at this point, just you can always make it pretty later. First, make sure that it's working properly, that it is the size that you want, all that stuff. Upscale 100 times 6. I'm pretty sure I can manage that one. And go to the object, which has lost its reference to the sprite. So we need to put it back. But advice, scrap. Yeah. See how that one looks. Yeah. Now the font spacing is a bit weird. Yeah. Okay. Well. Yes, it's because of that. It's because of... No, it's because I did my math wrong. The text already starts at this point, so I don't need to account for the left edge when I'm determining how wide the text can be. So instead of minus 10 times 6, this can be just minus 2, which gives us a lot more space. Okay. Right at. That's better. That's really good. Now, I want the text to be slightly further down. I want it to be slightly further down to be more easily distinguished. In fact, I'm going to move both the label and the text further down. I mean, I could also combine it. There's another approach. I could make it horizontally aligned in the center, but I don't love that. Like right now, this is two separate texts, right? It's always remember and then the advice. And I could combine these into the same one. I might actually... Yeah, I think I'm going to move this back to being centered. Oh. So, my bad. Drink break. So, then give it more space underneath. Plus 8 times 6. And this is gonna go like way down. Let's say 14 times 6. There. Because obviously I will have to test this with like some kind of utility. In fact, how about we just implement this right now? This is going to be debug code, but when we click on the thing, we want to set advice builder set text get advice. Yeah. That way I can scan through and check debug scrolling through all advice. That way I'll be able to check how does it look. Does every single text that can be displayed here fit properly within it? Otherwise, of course, it would be a massive pain to try and test all this. This, for instance, this I don't love. It might want to be slightly bigger, or we'll have to fit it to a maximum width. Because of course, what I've done now is I've done a silly. I have done a silly, which is I am fitting it to a maximum width. But that's weird, because oh no, sorry, my bad. Of course, it is correctly being fit to maximum width, but when I change the text, I also need to refit it. So that's exactly why we test. That's exactly why I made this. So something like that, yeah? And that's wonderful. I'll have to look through this, maybe make it slightly bigger, maybe fit the text to a slightly smaller maximum width. Something like this, yeah. Because the reason why this doesn't look good anymore is I have changed it to be middle font aligned. So previously it had a fixed starting point right here, and it would go to the left from, sorry, to the right from there, which meant it would never go further left than its starting point. But now with middle font alignment, I once again need to be concerned about both the left and right edge. So I need to take that into account. That's a blank one. Huh. Right, there's a few blanks, and I think I know why that is, and that's going to be okay in the end. Right, but here it is. That's, I swear, I initially made this just to fill this space. Just to fill out this space. But actually I want to try the opposite. I want to try the other variant where what we do is we get the label and we combine it. So our final text is equal to label plus 2 new lines. I suppose we can do this smarter with a template string. Haha! There. There we go. Then we can stuff all of this in the same builder, which we've just said this needs to account for the total maximum width. And There. Stuff this in the same builder. Leave that aside for now. Text, and the Y is going to be... I'm going to put this just straight in the middle. Straight in the middle of the entire thing. Yeah. And from there on out, we need to repeat these codes on the click. I would put this into a function, but again, I'm not planning to keep this in the game. This is for debugging reasons. So, and label builder needs to be the one that receives this text. And we need to fit it to the new maximum width. This is 30. It is, even for throwaway code like this, it is still a good idea to put it in a function and make sure that what you're doing to test it is the same thing as you do in the finished game. Because, of course, otherwise, well, you have tested your test code. But have you tested your final code? No, not really. I do need, however, to set the vertical alignment. Set v-align to have a center. There. But that may look better, and the reason for that, why I think I may prefer this version, is... I mean, that's not terrible, I've got to say. This is quite good. This, it should replace the always remember text if the if the text underneath is 3 lines as compared to 2 lines. I think I want this to be slightly lower down. But at that point, this is messing with the details. This is just a-okay. So, with that, that is going to be our time for today. I'm proud of us, I'm proud of myself, but mostly us. That I added a bunch of stuff that I wanted to put in before the demo version, which is always just a grand idea. I might make this gray too. I think I will. I added a bunch of stuff, but I did that knowing that it wouldn't be too much effort. And all of these I wrote yesterday evening. Didn't take that long. Maybe a bit of background about me. I have been a creative writer for a solid 14 years. 14, I'm gonna say. 13 and some. So I know where my creative place is and I can tap into it anytime. So writing out these like 6-7 words encouraging things wasn't difficult. It did make me get a little bit emotional, I'll have to admit. But hey, this is intended to fill this space and reinforce the cutesy aesthetic of the game, but if we can show a player something that they really need to hear in that moment, that's even better, isn't it? Okay, but as I said, that is going to be it for today. I will be live again tomorrow, 9 a.m. Central European Time, 4 hours before now, localized times underneath the stream. Thank you all so much for hanging out. We're gonna go and put on a little raid. Once again, usual disclaimer. This person that we're going to is someone I have found in the Twitch directory. I've been looking at their stream on mute, but I don't know them, so I cannot guarantee that they are as family friendly as I am. So let everyone do as they feel correct. As for me, thank you all for being here, watching, chatting. Greatly appreciate it. I am going to hop off and make a wonderful lunch. See you tomorrow. See you next week. See you whenever you feel like coming by. Bye.
Sometimes it feels like I'm speaking in tongues, and I know nobody understands me. Animation prefab. So that we're gonna drag in. Imagine drag.